Well, here we go. Loaded Mag. Welcome, everybody. Friday night, 8 p.m., episode number 3. And I am... Oh, camera's gone blurry. Don't know what it is. I can't move with this camera. I need to get a new webcam. Don't know. It's every time I move, it goes blurry. And I don't move that quick for a fat 50-year-old, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with my camera. So welcome, obviously, to Loaded Mag. I'm joined, as usual, by our two cohorts, Pete and Chris. And Chris, how are you guys?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good.
Good. So, as per normal, we don't have any format whatsoever, and we did chat pre-show, so we will launch straight into it. Obviously, this week we have seen the explosion yet again of the dreaded Newcastle takeover and Project Zebra and all that goes with it. So, we've obviously had a fair bit of noise coming out. We've had what would seem to be leaks possibly from both sides. We've had Luke Edwards given his usual spiel to wind up what would be Newcastle fans. Interestingly, we've had this from some of the papers saying that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman urged Boris Johnson to intervene in the takeover of Newcastle United by telling the Premier League that to correct its decision to block the deal. In an extraordinary exchange revealed by the Daily Mail, which I think was Jason Burt that revealed the story, bin Salman warned the Prime Minister on June 27 last year that Saudi-Anglo relations would be damaged unless the buyout was approved. His message to Boris read, "We expect the English Premier League to reconsider and correct its wrong conclusion." Boris Johnson asked one of his senior aides, Lord Eddie Lister, to investigate the matter, but the Saudis withdrew from the process at the end of July after the Premier League failed to approve them as the club owners. Then, the following day, reported by our own good friend Liam Kennedy of the Shields Gazette, that the government fired back and said that Boris had absolutely nothing to do with it and did not intervene in the Premier League's decision in relation to the proposed Saudi takeover in Newcastle. And a number 10 spokesman confirmed. But what we do know is that one of our friends in the Premier League marched us up and down the hill, lads. So possibly we've been getting a bit of a runaround. But I'll start with you, Pete, because I know you love talking about all of this. So where do we stand? I've just watched the Amigo show. The guys obviously have given really good updates, and I think they make a valid point that, you know, every side is taking stabs in the dark. Is that your feel on it, Pete, or what's your current feel on the noises that are coming out between what was released? I think the letters that were released from that Adam Musgrove got and got some of the paperwork released, I thought was absolutely outstanding journalism, and I would say on record, absolutely amazing piece of work, Adam Musgrove. Fair play and hats off to you. But where do you think things are at, Pete, with everything that's come out this week, mate?
I was going to start with the Andrew Musgrove piece because I think that's what started the chain reaction of the other two pieces, and that's the key point for me, in my opinion, in my interpretation of what's been happening. That was the key point, because that has been going on for 6 months, and he's been talking about that on his podcast, in his articles, about the fact that he's been asking for this information, this freedom of information, and he's been waiting for it to come to fruition, and now it has, and it's taken him a long time to get it. The one thing that we can say about all of this is that the piece from Andrew Musgrove and the information that's in that we know is fact. Okay, they had to release that information, and that information, if you read it and you've read the article and you've heard everything about it, obviously the three amigos talked about it tonight. That the information there is very, very damning, and can be very, very useful in arbitration, which we want to go our way. So that for me is positive. If you're looking at the next two pieces, so the other two articles that you've referred to, for me. That was a planned response. It was a planned response because they would have known for months now that this was coming. They would have known that this information would have had to have been released because it's been asked for. So it's given them time to plan and prepare a response to try and counteract it. Is it true? Nobody knows. But it doesn't have to be. It just has to be a response to try and cut out anything that's been said that actually is fact, and to try and build an argument against anything that's been released. Because they knew that once that information was released, it was going to be released in terms of a news article, and certainly from the Chronicle, which is exactly what happened. So for me, I wasn't surprised by seeing that response, because if you think about what's happened over the last year, whenever something positive has come out with regards to the takeover, there's been very, very quickly a negative spin on it. And very, very quick to put that spin out. So I was 100% expecting that. The one thing I wasn't then expecting is the government to come out very quickly after that and to squash those claims, which I think was needed. And I think what that did is it gave everyone, a sort of a clear perspective of where we're at. But like I say, the first article, the stuff from Andrew Musgrave is the one thing that we can say is fact right now.
Yeah,
you made a really good point about people stabbing in the dark, and that's exactly what we've been doing. Everyone's been doing that, and I'm talking the journalists here. I'm talking the professionals that write these stories on these pieces, not necessarily the fans, because the fans are just going off what they read and what they see. That's all we can do as fans. We don't know the ins and outs of what's going on. We're lucky enough to know people that have got little snippets, bits of information from certain sources, but even then, it's not the whole picture. But what you're getting is that people that are in very much privileged positions in terms of got lots of sources that they can go to, that are getting nothing right now. They're literally getting dust. And what they're doing is trying to galvanize a story out of nothing. So you get loads of fake articles, loads of clickbait, as you mentioned earlier, to try and drum up a response, to try and drum up something that's actually going to bring out a story or bring out some fact. And it's been happening for a long time. And we know, and I'm not going to name them, we know the particular journalists that have liked to have put a negative spin on this right from the beginning. And they've done that to try and get a reaction. And it's basically, that they are misleading fans and winding up fans in order for financial gain. And it sounds really harsh me saying that, but that's exactly what it is, because they know that we react. And when we react, it means they get more clicks. And if they get more clicks, they get paid more. And it means that they get more spotlight and they get more publicity off the back of that. And that's pretty much what they're doing and have been doing throughout. And it's not going to change until there's a result. And I did say there was one or two journalists out there that are really, really their reputation. If this takeover goes through, and I still believe that at some point, I don't know when, it will go through. But some of these journalists' reputations are going to go right into the mud. And I said this to you guys the other day, and I really think that one or two will kind of disappear into the sunset, into the background and disappear, because if this takeover goes through with how negative they've put a spin on things, it's going to be a case of a whole fan base is going to have lost complete trust in whatever they write, and if nobody's trusting whatever they write, there's no point in them being a journalist for Newcastle United.
Yeah, no, agreed. Chris A, obviously, we've seen some of the information that came out. I suppose depending on which way you look at it, some of it you could say was probably fairly damning for the Premier League. There seems to be clear fact, certainly from what I read, and again, the four of us that are on the show, it's just our opinions. We're not in the know or anything else. We're just giving a view on what we've seen. Some of the letters, it clearly shows that the Premier League got to a point with the takeover that, as they said, it was completely out of their zone. It was a different area. They were obviously reaching out to other factions, obviously the DCMS and other crowds. So do you think with what's come out, do you think that that's piled even more pressure onto the likes of Gary Hoffman and Richard Masters and the folks at the Premier League, taking into account if Bin Salman did start to lobby Boris, And I think there was a very good point made on the Amigos tonight, which was, okay, so let somebody made a point about saying that, the MBS lobbying the government is a bit of a, and I think it was Luke Edwards that put it up, which was, it's a bit of a sink in your own battleship moment in regards to the separation. But I think Mitch made a really good point on the Amigos, which was which head of state for any country has never lobbied for better business for his own country. So, you're obviously fairly up with the things that happen through the Middle East and stuff, but what's your view on, what do you think this information that's come out has done to the Premier League? Do you think if MBS did lobby with Boris, do you think there's anything to worry about that? What's your take on it?
Yeah, a couple of things, and Pete, everything that he said, I totally agree with. My impression when the Andrew Musgrove reporting came out was that really puts to rest this idea that the Premier League wasn't seeking outside counsel, outside advice. And even after Andrew's reporting, they're still saying we didn't talk to the government. The government has no role in the takeover. And then the sale decision. And then the government will say, as they will want to say, is that we don't have a view on this. It's a matter for the Premier League to decide among its internal processes. My other take on it was that it looked like the correspondence, you could say it was neutral or positive or negative. It looked to me like the Premier League had a view towards rejecting the deal, but they didn't want to go out alone, and they were appealing to the government for backup, saying there's no language that says it, but you sort of read between the lines. It sort of seems like they've informed Newcastle of their initial view, which sounds like they're saying, we don't see any separation between the government and PIF, and we don't want the Saudi government to own Newcastle. So it sounded like they were going to the government to kind of say, look, do we have your backup here? And the government, in their right, was not saying this is the right call, go for it. And so I felt that that was sort of reading in between the lines of the idea that the Premier League not having gotten backup from the government was not of a view to have to make a decision. So the whole idea of the Grand Old Duke of York was to sort of paper push the consortium to death, and sort of their best outcome was to not make a decision and then kind of force or compel the consortium to pull out. And that's ultimately what we did see. But I don't think that the pullout was in the way that they wanted, to sort of just have the consortium go away. Because clearly everything that the Athletic or everyone else has reported is that PIF is ready to come back in, pending positive developments with the arbitration and, a clear path, a glide path towards the takeover. And so it seems like ultimately I would say the Premier League hasn't gotten any backup to fail it. They felt that their best move sort of was to play for time, to have it kind of play out again in the courts, in the political arena, the legal arena. Of course, you've got Amnesty International is back saying that Bin Salman should never, it's sports washing, and all the things that we heard, let's say around last spring, June time, with Hoffman coming in, and all of the opposition on human rights grounds. And very clearly, as it's been seen all along, human rights has no, the Khashoggi, all that stuff has there's no bearing
No bearing on it. Yeah.
on the takeover. It's purely as the High Court decision to reject Newcastle's bid to remove the chairman said the only issue here that we're dealing with is the separation.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So that's there's a lot of noise around this, but I think sort of the ultimate view is that it was going to take a legal challenge to unlock this takeover, and obviously the lads in Ruin was talking about when will the arbitration actually go forward. I do think that the Newcastle challenge of the chair did necessarily delay the arbitration getting started, but I'm pretty confident that between Nick DeMarco and Shahid Fatima that we've got really the best QCs on our side, and that I'm sure they were already prepared to win the case, but the Andrew Musgrove Freedom of Information Act documents just provide a much makes the job a lot easier for Nick DeMarco. So he between all his photo taking and meal
making muscle soup and
meal preparing, he must be licking his chops with these developments, because I think it's I saw one comment on Twitter. People were saying, some snarky reply to him was saying, you're taking all these photos. When do you ever work? And he says, I haven't had a day off in months. So even if he's posting these like leisurely photos in Hove by the sea, that guy is
still working away
24/7 to get this thing done. I put his record against anyone. He's the right guy for us, and a formidable opponent.
Okay, Chris Hall. Any update on the scores?
No, it's still 0-0. I was just watching it then, and Ndombele's gone down like he's been shot. Everton are at home to Tottenham tonight, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, playing at Goodison Park. And Ndombele went down like he'd been shot, and Godfrey was accused of elbowing him. But honestly, I mean, VAR are looking at it, but there's just no way it's an elbow. So
okay, so obviously you've heard Pete, you've heard Chris.
Yeah.
We were talking on Load of Football on Wednesday when some of the stuff was initially coming out. Andrew Musgrove stuff had come out. Do you think? I think for me, one of the positives is, and again, it was talked about earlier on the Amigos, it would definitely appear that the Premier League appeared to be leaking certain things out again. I think from the consortium side, it appears to be and has continued to be very, very quiet. We're not hearing anything. We're not hearing anything with regards to arbitration. And I think it's, my own take is it's probably, I can understand the Premier League trying to get certain things out, because I think they're trying to put a multitude of fires out that they've got with some of this stuff, because I would imagine if you're Hoffman or Richard Masters or their legal brief, and you're looking at some of this stuff that's coming out, and you're looking at letters, physical letters that have had parts of them doctored and marked out so that things can't be read in them. I mean, it doesn't paint a good picture really for what's gone on. And I think, do you feel, I mean, I always try and keep it quite simplistic when I think about this. And obviously, we've had this takeover now for over a year going on in the background, but I always play it back to the original piece. And I'm sure you guys are the same, which is we should have only been judged on what is within the O&D test.
Yeah.
And, there is definitely a piece here where the takeover attempt of the Saudis and PCP and the Reuben brothers of Newcastle United has been completely differently treated than, say, Manchester City or Burnley or other people. So, I think. Do you think that the Premier League are looking at it? I'm sure their barrister is building the case to go, well, you know what, Nick DeMarco's not a very good QC, and putting other bits and pieces together. But from a point of what's come out, how do you think they're going to tackle some of the information that's come out from Andrew Musgrave this week? How do you think their corner is pitching at the minute? And we know that there's been active lobbying from beIN Sports to the other 19 clubs of the Premier League. We know that the Premier League were involved in that. Allegedly. We know that certain aspects of letters have come out. So where do you think they feel they are with regards to their position now to where they were when they tried to allegedly stall the deal in July, August time last year? Do you think their position has changed at all?
I think the Premier League are running scared, and I think you summed it up there perfectly, Mark, when you were saying that, the kind of leaking things out to try and put a few fires out, because I think all of a sudden all these little things are popping up, and the Premier League know that it's weakening their case. And as Chris said, DeMarco must be licking his lips, because don't forget, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but DeMarco's kind of dealing with the legal side of things, whereas Fatima is dealing with the separation case. Now, the separation case for me should be pretty clear cut, and this is why I was so surprised, when people were coming out and saying, I can't believe MBS has said, told Boris, to push this through and everything. And I must admit, I was really surprised when people jumped on that and they were like, I can't believe he's done that, or that's the takeover off. I thought there's absolutely no way he's done that. Now, don't get me wrong, Saudi Arabia are a very proud country, aren't they? And I think that is half the reason why they've walked away unofficially, because they don't want to be dragged through the mud. They basically... They will arrive back at the table as soon as someone gives them a green light and says, yeah, you can go ahead with the takeover. And I think that's why they gave the official line when they said that they would withdraw him, because I think they didn't want to get caught up in all of this. So as much as we as Newcastle fans know that they are still lingering and they are still hanging around, officially they're not. And I just think, this Andrew Musgrove piece, I think this just brings more fuel to the fire for DeMarco and Fatima. I think it brings, more evidence for them. And I also believe, and this is just my opinion, that I wouldn't be surprised if MBS has said something to Boris Johnson, but I don't think he said, turn that decision round, because let's be honest, they didn't really make a decision. They stalled on it and wouldn't make a decision. So I think he's turned around to maybe Boris Johnson and said, listen, you're embarrassing us here. And this is at the time, by the way, you're embarrassing us here. Give us a decision one way or another. Tell them to make a decision. Because if the Premier League had turned around and said no, the Saudis and everybody else knew full well that the Covenants Owners and Directors test, they can't fail that deal. And let me tell you, and I'm sure you're all aware, as soon as this deal does go through, which I'm still firmly believing that it will, I haven't caught up with the Three Amigos show yet, and I can't wait to watch it on UFC Matters. But I must say, I'm looking forward to hearing, what the three lads' views on it, and Keith as well, because I just can't see how this takeover doesn't go through. I just can't see it. I've firmly believed it since way back when. And I just think they can't wait to change that owners and directors test, because they know it's flawed. And unfortunately, the Premier League, have been presented with this deal. They don't like it. They don't want it, but they can't reject it. So rather than rejecting it, they're just stalling on it in the hope that the Saudis get fed up, in the hope that the consortium get fed up. And unfortunately, everybody is sticking their heels in and going, no, we want a decision, we want to know. And that's why they haven't rejected it, and that's why we are where we are now. But I think it's only strengthening the case, because, as I say, the likes of DeMarco and Fatima will just rip them apart. They really will.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into probably for me what's the more important thing, quick spin around the board. Chris, you've said you're still fairly confident. Pete, confidence level, high, low, medium?
It's high. Look, there's always times where you kind of doubt yourself and you think, the thought of it not going through, and the thought of having a Mike Ashley's Newcastle United going into the new season is just like unthinkable for all Newcastle fans. But as Chris has said, and he's absolutely right, the longer you think about all the evidence that's out there, the more that you convince yourself that actually the deal's going through. And for me, they're delaying the inevitable. They have from the beginning. They are literally delaying what is a legitimate purchase of a football club. There is no other situation like this in world football that's ever happened before, but it's happened to Newcastle United. Typically, the club that we support have made it extremely difficult for a rich owner to buy the club, and there are reasons that are not even out there right now that we probably won't even be aware of. It's not about piracy. It's not about Saudi Arabia. For me, it's a more deep-rooted issue as to why this club is not allowed to be bought by huge financial owners, and they're delaying the inevitable. And the more the evidence gets stacked up, the more it makes the Premier League look stupid. And actually, it'll be in the Premier League's interest to get this deal done and to move on as quickly as possible, because
take the noise away.
It is,
and get the test changed. Get the test changed because they need to. Obviously,
the longer this goes on, if or when this deal goes through, it puts the Premier League in a massively negative light. It also puts Richard Masters, who has only been really involved with the Premier League for a year now, in even worse light. It wouldn't surprise me if not long after the Premier League sanctioned the deal, that the likes of Hoffman and Mike Ashley, and not Mike Ashley, sorry, because naturally he will go, but Richard Masters, they disappear.
1-0.
I was waiting for you to
I had to say it, Pete. I had to interrupt you because everyone gives me shtick when I don't. It's 1-0, Harry Kane. Tottenham are 1-0 up. Sorry, Pete, carry on.
No, that was the end of my bit, really. I was just saying, as soon as the deal goes through, it would not surprise me if Masters and Hoffman disappear not long after that. Because let's face it, the Premier League are in a negative light right now, and with everything that's been going on, the Premier League haven't been run very well in the last year, and it's been an absolute shit show. As Martin,
I think you're right, Pete. I think if you're the Premier League, nobody is bigger than the brand, and I think this has done nothing but damage their brand in an absolute. Chris, very very quickly before we move on to sponsors and West Ham, positivity level, you still think it's going to happen?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, add on to Pete, when the takeover goes through, you'll see Masters and Hoffman reappear on the Andy Gray show with Richard Keys on beIN Sports.
Yeah, they'll be on beIN, won't they?
Yeah. Their only source of income. That's what they'll be.
Let's see. Any other thoughts? I'm not bothered by the lobbying. I mean, that's what had the state do, even though MBS is not head of state. He's basically the de facto head of state, and I don't believe for a minute that he's WhatsApping or texting Boris. That language doesn't sound like him. He is does have personal relationships with world leaders and their in-laws, but I don't believe that Boris Johnson is one of them. I don't believe that Boris Johnson's got MBS's mobile
personal number,
on his WhatsApp.
Yeah, and do you know what?
I agree.
The whole point, he's trying to prove separation. They're trying to prove separation of MBS or the Saudi state and PIF. Yeah. Now, he's not a stupid man, is he? He's not stupid. He's gonna make sure that he's not gonna come in and go, "Oh, that's my company, approve it." He knows he's got to keep it separate. But on the other hand, like I said earlier, the Saudis are a proud nation, and he's probably annoyed because he's thinking, because let's be honest, all of this it's dragging him into it as well. And he's probably thinking, we've sent over legal documentation to prove that the Saudi state is separate from PIF, and you constantly keep saying that it's not. So either say yes to the deal or say no, and then we'll go to court. Let's have it.
I don't believe that MBS is that ultimately that involved in like what amounts to like 1% of the assets of PIF. Even though like the idea for getting a football club probably did come from his mentor in Abu Dhabi, Mohammed bin Zayed, who would be the brother of the sheikh who bought Man City. So because they want to be able to compete, along with Qatar, with PSG, to be able to compete in the Premier League as a prestige thing. And I wouldn't call it sports washing, but it's more about sort of, being the biggest, baddest mofo on the.
There's a sports rivalry in there. There's a country rivalry.
Yeah, it's the same idea with him buying that $450 million supposed painting by Leonardo da Vinci. Who cares if it's it's controversial that it's a real Leonardo, but he's paid the most money for it, and so he owns the world's most expensive painting. So
okay, we know the goal 1-1.
It's a penalty to Everton, and Sigurdsson's just put it away. It's 1-1. Sorry, Chris.
And we did get a message there as well in the battle of promotion from League One. Peterborough have also taken the lead 1-0. So even more pressure on our friends from the Void and everybody else.
I was hoping it was Johnson Clark-Harris. Just to go off Newcastle topic, Johnson Clark-Harris is a Leicester boy. And he's a young lad that when I was a youth worker for 10 years, he was the first young person that I came across in the area that he lived in. And he talked about wanting to be a footballer, and we always used to put it off. And he ended up having an absolute wand of a left foot. And he's actually built a career from being in the Coventry Academy, now going into playing professional football. He's made a real good career of himself. So I'm really proud of him, and I hope he gets them the automatic promotion that keeps Sunderland in the playoffs. Exactly. I really hope that he does.
Peterborough is 1-1, by the way.
Is it 1-1? Okay. Boo.
Who do you guys favor to come up from the championship? I mean, it looks like the automatic positions are pretty set. I've got a sentimental connection to Barnsley, but
as do we all.
Could be playing Premier League football.
That would be great. I would love to see. Okay, we're at the halfway point. Chris, have you got some kind of light? Because I've got a few comments here. People asking, have you got a torch or a candle or something? So I'm not quite. There is a lot of light behind you, but obviously in a city kind of vibe.
It's got the dark all of a sudden.
I have to say,
if you could get some kind of a light, yeah, that would be perfect.
Oh, there he is.
I tell you what,
yeah.
Christmas backdrops are amazing.
I know. Do you know what it is? I mean, it's just like. He's like, when Daz is on the midweek football, Daz is there with his green screen, and Chris is like, bitch, come on, man. Look at my backdrop.
It's a real one.
Exactly. Okay, we will quickly, just for those who are watching and who do follow us, obviously hit the like and comment, and also subscribe to the channel. We've got over 500 who are subscribed to the chat, are kind of following the channel. But not everybody is subscribed, so please subscribe. It does help us. Lets us bring a bit more content, and enables us to do the things we want to do. Also, want to give a shout out. That's better, much better, mate. Thanks very much.
There you go, mate. You're there.
Also, give a shout out to Bruce and the team at Centre Ale, sponsors for Loaded Mag. Situated on the platform of Newcastle Central Station, purveyors of fine ales, distilled gins, wines. Some cool craft beer, including some really, really good vegan stuff. So if you are local, get onto Central Station, go and see Centre Ale, and the guys will look after you. Also, a shout out to Retro Souls, Lee and the guys at Retro Souls UK on Twitter. They're not on the web; they're only on Twitter. Independent retailer for Adidas Originals, trainers, new and pre-owned. And Lee and the guys will look after you. And as it says there, hashtag Bare Your Souls. They've got some really good stuff going on there at the moment. So go on there and have a look. And in a bit of an exclusive, and I know the rest of the guys aren't on, but me and Chris are aware of this, we have signed a deal with Magpie Kit for loaded mag. So what you will see over the next while is us boys will start tweeting out. It is on our channel. At the bottom of our YouTube piece, there is a URL for the web for Magpie Kit. If you go on there, you can buy a whole heap of merchandise, T-shirts, face masks, home decor, gift cards, replica shirts, T-shirts, swimwear, a whole heap of stuff. Use the URL at the bottom of our YouTube page. We will tweet out the URL as well. If you go on, you'll get a decent deal. And we get a little bit of support from Magpie Kit. So big welcome to them. Delighted to have been asked to join up with them. And yet again, another cracking sponsor and supply added to Loaded HQ as a channel. That's 4 or 5 really good sponsors and supply and everything else that we've got. If I can get rid of that, that would be perfect.
So those face masks. Those face masks there are amazing because that's the same. Is that the top you wore, Chris, Wednesday night? You wore that Wednesday night.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that did.
There is a load on there. If you hit the URL that's on our page, I'll tweet it out tonight from my own and from Loaded HQ. Hit the URL that will take you directly into Magpie Kit via our URL. So you will get a little bit of assistance from them. And we get a little bit of support back from them as well. So rather than just hit the website, go on via the URL. It helps us and it helps them. But go on to Magpie Kit. They have got some really good stuff. They've got some replica shirts on there tonight, but they've got some cracking T-shirts and everything else. What are you laughing at, lad?
I'm looking at Chris's screen. He looks like he's on like one of the moonlight dates.
Do you know what it is? It's like one of those things. It's like all I'm waiting for is the French waiter to come out and the blonde girl on
exactly,
Thursdays.
Or the gondola in the background.
I've been. Do you know what it is? I don't even live here. I rented this flat. I've been here for 5 hours and she hasn't turned up. He's muted, so he can keep shouting all he wants.
Here he is.
He's still muted.
He's still muted.
He broke his phone.
I've got I'm using the torch from my phone. It's like directly shining into my eyes, so I might be blinded, but at least I am well lit.
Exactly, and to be fair, it is a very, very good Tinder look. So I would snapshot that if I was you.
Very romantic, isn't it? Very romantic. Yeah, I'm in my bedroom.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in my hallway. That's like Piccadilly Station. But anyway, okay. So moving on swiftly from takeover and sponsors and everything else. I will talk about what's coming up at the weekend and into next week in a while. Obviously, tomorrow 12:30 kickoff. Newcastle against West Ham United. We don't have a bad record against them, lads, to be fair.
No, we don't.
The last 19 games we've only lost 5. Now a few draws in there, but we've got a pretty good record home and away. So what is the feel? Pete, we'll start with you. West Ham tomorrow 12:30. Good win against Burnley last weekend. St. Maximin back in, Wilson back in. Disappointing for me, no position for Willock. I think he was unlucky to be dropped from the week prior. Shelvey there. I know King of Northumbria, who watches this show and tweets me regularly because I say I want Shelvey out, will tell you he's one of the best passers we have in the team, and we get good passing stats with him in. I personally still think he's a lazy shite, but that's just me. Team-wise, Pete, what do you think in the weekend, mate? Are we putting Wilson and St. Maximin back in from the start? Who are you lining up with, and what's the feel on the game for tomorrow, pal?
Firstly, I've always thought that we'll be competitive against West Ham. You put the stats up yourself. The record that we have against them, particularly at St. James's Park, is good, and that's been regardless of the type of season that they've had, whether they've been on real good winner form or whether they've been absolutely awful. So I'm always confident when West Ham come to town, because look, this might sound. Look, I know that John Joe Shelby, for example, has got a lot of stick for what he said about the comparisons of squads. I don't agree with him completely, but I understand where he's coming from. If you look on comparison to this season, they are completely outperforming us. But I think there's an opposite sort of performance here. I think they've way and above overperformed, and we have way and above underperformed. And I think that's where the differences are. I think if you, on a normal season, you would probably put us right bang smack in the middle, and we would be exactly at the same area, mid-table. Because that's what both squads are, in my opinion. West Ham are not a top 4 squad. They're not even a top 8 squad, but they've overperformed. And fair play to them. We did it in 2012 with Alan Pardew, and we finished 5th. We did that. So fair play to them for doing that. But that doesn't mean that we can't go there on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon and win. Of course we can. And I believe that we will. I believe that we'll be massively competitive, and I think we'll at least take a point. Injuries will play a part. It did for us at parts of the season when we lost players. We didn't win games because we were struggling as a squad. They've not got the biggest squad, and we're getting players back. Would I start Alan St-Maximin? Of course I would, 100%. He's ready now. He's had a couple of games under his belt. He's had a good number of minutes under his belt. He's ready to start. Callum Wilson, I'm still on the fence. He didn't look overly fit. He did a lot more than Gale did and Joe Linton did in the time that he was on the pitch, which says a lot about those two players. But it's a question mark about him because you don't want to push him too far. If you're going to start him, you give him no more than 60 minutes and then you bring him off regardless of the result just to protect him because he's going to be key in other games. So
I was just going to say that to you. Do you get the two of them and say, listen, lads, we're going to give you 60 minutes, but give us your best 60 minutes? And then,
there you go. Because look, it worked against Burnley, but I think against the likes of West Ham, we need to hit them early. You've already seen against West Ham, or when you've watched West Ham, that West Ham start strong. They get goals early on, particularly in the first half. So we need to combat that with attacking play ourselves, and we need to be dangerous the other end. Because I actually think the longer the game goes on, if they are not running away with it by half time, I think we're in it to win it. And I think we've got a great chance of beating them because they're on their last legs right now. I think the pressure's getting to West Ham. I think the pressure's getting to them big time. And I think the realisation that they could actually finish 4th for a lot of those players is building a lot of pressure on them. And I think it's building a lot of pressure on David Moyes. And we can exploit that. We've got nothing to lose. We looked at these results 2 weeks ago. We would have expected to get absolutely hammered in this game. We're now 6 points clear against Fulham. We've got an opportunity to spread the gap even further before Fulham even kick a ball. So we should be going in this full of confidence, and I believe we will. You're right in what you said about Willock. I think he was very, very harsh to be dropped, but I don't think it's a bad thing either because I think it makes him hungry. We saw that against Tottenham. And he got himself forward and got a goal, a crucial goal that got us a point. So I don't think it's the end of the world, but you can't have him on the bench forever. You've got to give him games. He's on loan to us. We've got to give him games because that would have been the agreement. So, and then there's the argument of John Joe Shelby, of whether he's going to play or not. Of course he's going to play. Because he's the captain and
vice captain.
So, I mean, he is, love him or hate him, he transitions the ball very well, and he did against Burnley. He keeps the ball ticking over in a game that we didn't have great possession, and we may not have great possession tomorrow. So for someone that can hold the ball in that midfield, it is important that we have that, whether it's crossfield balls or simple passes. Now, I think that's why he's playing. Is it enough? No, but right now, it's what we need.
It's what we need,
I think it'll be either a 1-1 or a 2-1, but I'm going to go 2-1 because I actually think we're going to win tomorrow.
Okay. Chris, same team as last week. Do you flip Willicombe somewhere? What do you very quickly, what do we run with? The other thing as well I'd ask you is still no Ryan Fraser. What is going on with Fraser?
That's a good question. I was surprised that Wilson got that much playing time last week, but clearly changes had to be made. So yeah, like Pete, I would probably say, give him 60 minutes max if he does start, or maybe just bring him on second half. Yeah, I would start Saint-Maximin. Yeah, I do favor having those two guys plus either Willick or Fraser as a front three. So it is kind of a mystery. We know we did hear that. I think what happened with Fraser was that he said he was ready to go, and then he may have suffered like a pregame or like the day before, some kind of last minute nick or something, which held him out because clearly he's indicated he was ready to go, and we've seen Bruce end up kind of capitulating and playing players that he might not get on with, and clearly we've seen signs in the past that Fraser was sort of out of sorts and maybe not happy having come to Newcastle, and maybe looking for a way out. Not to play himself off the squad. He has been a disappointment, but I do rate him, and when he's contributed, he's been a major contributor to the squad. So I would like to see him involved. I still would put him, loads again, way ahead of people like Hendrick and Kraft and those kind of guys that kind of make up the back end of our midfield or front line. I do think that Fraser has a lot to offer when he's on his game. It just he seems to be a bit of a head case, and so it's a question of which Fraser are we going to get, even with healthy? Is his mind in it, or is he just checked out? So I give him a run in. I think he does have something to contribute to the squad. Saint-Maximin definitely in there. Wilson, I definitely wouldn't play him more than 60 if he does start, because we can't. I mean, to lose him would be, we're nearly there, but we need to secure safety before we deal with his health again.
What the hell is that?
Sounds like the Jordy Dentist on the
yeah, no, I thought we transferred to Mitch's house. All right, very quickly, Chris, prediction.
Like Peter, I'm going to go with a 2-1 win.
Okay. Chris H. Very quickly, we're about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, of course, mate. I'll try and be quick. I mean, I think the lads make a really good point, and I want to quote Liam Kennedy here when I thought he made a fantastic point on Tuesday night when he was talking on Steve Wraith's show, and he was saying about Shelvey is in for his experience. And that's exactly right. He's in because, and I know this sounds weird, and I hope you all take my point, but he's in because on the ball, I've got no issue with him. It's when he's not on the ball that's the problem, because there's a lack of running, lack of intensity, lack of effort. But when he's on the ball, I don't really have an issue with him. So I think he's in there for his experience, and it's important that he is in. But in terms of
do stack up now, because I've had this row on Twitter with King of Northumbria a few times, but when you do actually delve into the stats, his stats stack up that he's one of the best haulers and passers of the ball that we do have from a creation point of view. So he is lazy, but we cannot afford, I don't think we can't afford to drop his bit of forward movement as it stands, just because of the backtracking and the bit of laziness.
No, exactly. No, I get what you mean. Do we need an update on Shelvey? Of course we do. But right now, he's probably the best person in that midfield, and we need him because you can't. As much as I think Willick will be better, and Willick gives more on and off the ball, I think with Shelvey, he does, like you've said, Marty, he does keep us ticking over. And I think Keith Roll just made the point then, saying, about Shelvey's got a good record against West Ham, and let's not forget Shelvey, as far as I'm aware, is a West Ham fan.
Yeah, he scored in both fixtures last season.
Yeah, he's come. he's come out and he said what he said. And like Pete, I know people say, oh, it's ridiculous. And when you look at the league table, yeah, it does look a bit ridiculous. But if you look at it man for man on the pitch, if you had both teams on paper, there really isn't that much difference. I mean, a lot of our strikers, I mean, just to very briefly do it, would you swap St. Maximin for Bowen? I wouldn't. Would you swap Callum Wilson for Antonio? I wouldn't. Would you swap Fabianski for Dubravka? No. You could go through the team, and don't get me wrong, West Ham have got some really good players, and they've been playing really well. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but I've said it now for a while, and since we got the win against Burnley, I really fancy us this weekend. I think I read a stat yesterday saying that Callum Wilson scored his most goals against West Ham. Loads of stats stack up. I've seen Andre saying that we've got a good record against him. I know you threw that that picture up there, Mars, as well. I know we've got a pretty good record against West Ham, and I'm one of those. It's one of my friends put me in this mindset, and I think it's people should remember this. In terms of like results and when teams are going through good patches, those good patches always have to come to an end. And I think West Ham have been playing really well. They've been on a rich vein of form, doing really good. And it's games like this where you see a shock result. And I firmly believe, after that really good result we had against Burnley where we turned it around, I think we're more than capable of getting the 3 points. I would start St. Maximin because I think he's ready. He's had 2 cameo appearances. I mean, the last game was absolutely fantastic when he came on. I'd probably start Wilson on the bench for me, but I'd certainly give him longer. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd have no problem with him starting, but I certainly wouldn't play him for the whole 90, as you lads have already said. For me, the biggest thing for tomorrow is the formation. I hope that we stick with 5 at the back. And again, as Pete said, because West Ham come out the blocks, the longer that we keep it 0-0, or if we nick a goal first, the more confident I'll be that we'll go on and win the game. And for me, I'm going to say that we're going to win 2-0.
Okay, I'm going to go with a Stu Penman reverse, and I'm going to go a 3-1 win to Newcastle. I think if we can keep Souček and Lingard quiet, I think West Ham are doable. I think the factor of Rice being out, Antonio and a few others, I think defensively they're there to be got at. So I'm going 3-1 tomorrow for me.
Can I add as well, Mars? I know I said this on a previous. I think I said this on Loaded Football Weekly. In the last 3 games, West Ham 3 games ago, West Ham were 3-0 up against Arsenal. They drew 3-3. They were 3-0 up against Wolves, and I think they won it 3-2 in the end. And they were 3-0 up in the game just gone, and finished 3-2 again. So they're definitely leaking goals.
Do leak goals in the second half.
Yeah, it's a matter of time before they drop points.
Well, I was going to say the key to all of that is that they've scored first. So I would love to see us get the first goal,
hold them out,
the first 2 goals, and see how they react then. Because I don't believe that they've got enough in their locker to break down a team that are 1 or 2-0 up. Because what we would do is that if we played the 3-5-2, is that we would then try to shut up shop. And what that does, it cuts out their counter-attack. So if you look at their goals, you look at the teams they've played Arsenal, Leicester and Wolves. All 3 teams have gone out to attack them. They've gone at them. They've gone to attack, which has left gaps in and behind where the likes of Lingard have exploited on the counter-attack. That's what's happened. We're not like that. We try to stay quite compact at the back and stay really defensive. So that counter-attack, the likes of Lingard travelling long distances with the ball with gaps to run into, isn't going to be quite there.
Yeah, it's going to be more condensed.
The key for me is set pieces. With the likes of Souček and 1 or 2 others that are good in the air, can we stop them from set pieces? We did it against Burnley last week, who were a very set piece.
Yeah, the defense against the likes of Wood and Vidra was very well.
You could argue
first
they're
half
one of the best.
We were a bit out the marks, but second half
Burnley are one of the best most in terms of physicality teams, or should I say one of the worst teams to come up against, because they are so physical and they are, they're great in the air and they're not a nice team to play against. So if we can turn Burnley over when we go 1-0 down, there's no reason why we can't, really get at West Ham.
Yep. Okay. Agreed. All right. Couple of minutes left. Obviously, Daz keeps messaging me. One of the things we will. So first thing, I did have a couple of people, and I have had a couple of texts as well. Just the T-shirt. That's it there. The magpie sitting on the strawberry gate. People asking where I got it from. I got it online. Redbubble.com. Do a massive range of Newcastle T-shirts. I'm advertising for everybody. I should be getting something.
There'll be a new sponsor next week.
I know, yeah, I'm going to get them on as well. But yeah, that's where I got it, and I got the other one that I was wearing midweek on Wednesday with the Keegan on it. Decent enough, good quality, and a massive range of Newcastle memorabilia and bits and pieces on this. So yeah, if you like the t-shirt, go on and get yourself one.
Lovely.
I don't get nothing from it. Obviously, as Daz has said, subscribe to the channel. You can see there, in particular, Loaded Football Weekly. We've had a load of guests on. We do, obviously, Loaded Mag now on a Friday. We've got some other bits and pieces and ideas coming up. Myself and Richie, at some point towards the summer, are going to be bringing you Loaded NFL, where we are going to look at American football. And I can see my colleague there, Chris, smiling. So yeah, me and Richie have a bit of a take on US sports. So we're gonna get ready for pre-season and the NFL season from September on. And we're going to bring you hopefully a weekly NFL show. But yeah, look, we do bring you load. We bring bands. Anybody that watched the show on Wednesday night, we had the Void from Sunderland, cracking lads, albeit they were Mackems, but we had a really good night. We ran over a 2-hour show, ran into 2.5. But we do try and bring you top bands, unsigned bands, along with a whole heap of content on Loaded Mag. Coming up this week on Loaded Football Weekly on Wednesday, we do have Felix Hill, and the four of us will be back on again, and obviously played back out tomorrow morning. Wednesday's show that we've just done is on our partners Away Day Radio from 1 to 3 tomorrow, and then we'll obviously push the show out from there. So that's what we've got coming on. I think also tomorrow I haven't got a tag for it because Daz didn't really set things up properly, but hey ho. I know, yeah, part-time. But we are doing, I think Daz, or is it you? Is it you and Richie, Chris, tomorrow? Daz, you and Chris, or whoever?
No, I don't think it's me. I thought it was you.
Is it Richie and Daz, is it? I can do it as well. But anyway, we've got a wrap-up show after the West Ham game here on Loaded Mag. We'll be doing a quick half-hour catch-up and just going over the game. Other than that, that's it for tonight, boys. 57 minutes. We've obviously got, and I will thank obviously all our guests. Obviously, Chris Hall, who's also my co-host on the other shows. Chris with the beautiful Tinder background coming all the way from London. Pete, as always, our Friday night regular, which to be fair, Chris A is also turning into a Friday night regular. Yeah. So there you go. Maybe a new position. But listen, boys, thanks very much for coming on. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Hopefully we'll talk again this time next week, if not before. So from us, we'll say goodnight. And what I am going to do, as I did have our guest on the other week, midweek, Adam Beckett of the NUST Trust, what I'm going to do tonight is I'm just going to play out with the video from the Trust. So for me, it's good night and the guys, and we shall see you next week on Loaded Mag. Thanks very much now. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Good night, guys. God bless.
See you guys.
Introducing the 1892 pledge scheme from the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. We are one of the most celebrated fan bases in football. We embody the spirit of the greatest city going, Newcastle upon Tyne. But you'll find black and white running throughout the entire North East and just about everywhere else in the British Isles. But we're not just the best fans in the country these days, but the best fans on the planet, because we're everywhere. So what is the 1892 pledge scheme? Well, we are asking you, the supporters of this historic football club, to make a small monthly payment by direct debit or a little bit when you can, so fans can buy a small share of a club whenever it's next sold. Or be ready to save it should we fall down divisions, making us affordable enough for fans to buy outright. With our global fan base paying in a tiny contribution, we'll get there united. And we've appointed some reliable people and familiar faces to keep that money safe, acting as guardians for the cash you pay in. This is your football club. It belongs to us. And by giving something small monthly or when we can, we will raise enough to have a small stake in our club. And what happens if we fail? Then your guardians will donate all of that money to a selection of North East charities. So please, pledge what you can and help take Newcastle United forward. This is the 1892 pledge scheme. Are you with us?